All right, what's going on, you guys? You know what time it is, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, and I'm your host, Dr. Brad. Welcome to Elite Performance, the show where high-achieving men come to do three things: prioritize their faith, maximize their performance, and pursue their purpose. If you're here for the first time, we welcome you. If you are a returning viewer, thank you. I'm going to give this time for you to be able to do three things: like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. This show we're extremely excited about. We've been doing it ever since Corona got started, all the COVID, pandemic got started, and it just offered me an opportunity to be able to provide some value to men out here, to be able to do two things: succeed at work and win in life. I think oftentimes we run so hard as men that it is difficult to be able to find balance with the success and the goals that we're trying to make happen in our lives on a professional level, but also to be able to win in life and be personally fulfilled. And so I'm your host, Dr. Brad, faith-based performance coach for men. And that's exactly what I do, is I help high-achieving men maximize their performance so that they can succeed in work and win in life. This show, man, I don't even know. I got this new mic, and right now there is sirens going off like right outside of my home. And I'm like wondering if anybody can hear these sirens. I mean, they're like right outside of my home. You either can really hear it or not. Either way, we're going to keep this train running. So this show provides the perfect combination of both faith-based and peak performance strategies for men to succeed at a high level in all areas of life. Marcelle, I know you in the background. Can you hear that? Can you hear those sirens? You can't? They're going to think Dr. Brad is like, they coming to get me. But anyway, we're going to keep this thing moving, you guys. I'm extremely excited about this show because I've got a great guest. You guys kind of heard me refer to him. Oliver Marcell is going to be coming on here in just a little bit. But before he comes on, as usual, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind this week that I think can help all of us as men to be able to be elite. That elite is what I describe as combining both success and fulfillment in life. The reason I call it elite is because I just don't think it's I think it's kind of rare. I think it's rare that men can find what that formula is to apply to their life, such that they live in abundance, having success in work and fulfillment in life. And today, I don't know about you, but how many people have some really big goals? How many fellas have massive goals? I'm talking about those goals that sometimes when people, you're talking to people, you are nervous to share with them what that real goal is because they might think you're crazy. All right. The goal that seems unreachable. And that goal could be in anything. That goal could be to increase your faith, increase your walk with God. That goal could be a monetary goal. That goal could be a business goal. It could be a goal of impact. For some of us, it's just our health. We're trying to get in better health, but what is that one thing that you're really aspiring to do right now? And for some of us, maybe it's something that's been extremely frustrating to reach. Dr. Barry, what's going on, man? I see you just hopped on, brother. I miss you, man. We got to connect here pretty soon. Thanks for hopping on. But I'm curious, do you have that kind of goal? That goal that's just been racking your brain, either because it's just not going as fast as you want, or it's not happening the way that you want, or maybe you might even be moving backwards. Most of us have that one thing that we're going after in some area of our life. And, for me, that's been the case for me in multiple areas of my life. Right now I'm looking to build a massive coaching company to be able to help men worldwide just be better men. And, I'll be honest, do I want it to go faster? Of course. But I'm going to share with you a key that I recently forgot, but I picked back up soon, or not too long ago, to be able to accelerate my results. How many people here wouldn't mind accelerating your results and getting to where you're trying to go faster? See, that's me. I'm impatient. I don't know about y'all, but I'm impatient. I want to make things happen really, really fast. And for me, it's not a matter of that I'm not working hard enough, or it's not a matter that I'm not putting in the work. It's not a matter that I'm not focused. For some of us, that's not the case. The one thing that I realized, at least for where I'm at with the goals that I'm trying to make happen, I was missing people. Collaborating with people. This is the missing key that oftentimes we as men do not tap into for whatever reason. And it can be for different reasons. It can be because of pride. It can be because, you know what, I think I got this. Like I can make this happen. Whatever it comes down to, I'm going to tell you that whatever your excuse is to not reach out to somebody else to help you get to where you're trying to go, that excuse just isn't good enough and it's not acceptable. See, recently I started partnering with other people who have been where I'm trying to go already. And not only are they willing to help, but I'm already seeing results happen as a result of the connections that I'm making. There is no way that we can't get to where we're trying to go without having people in our lives. And as a matter of fact, I would tell you, you need to make sure that your goals are big enough that it's going to require more than you in order to get there. So here's what I'm telling you. For many of us, our success and what we're trying to do is just a phone call away or a text away to the right person. And I truly believe that we're just probably one person away from things being unlocked. But you will never know that if you don't tap into trying to collaborate with someone else. We are not built to do this alone by ourselves. And if there is any reason why you think you can do it by yourself, don't try to carry that cross by yourself. It's not meant for you to, right? The goal is for iron to sharpen iron. And see, what the cool part about this is whenever we collaborate with someone else is that not only do you win, but they win, right? This is a two-way street. There are people out here who are willing to help you. And here's what I'll leave you with. Oftentimes we will share our visions with other people or reach out to people. And maybe it seems as though either they're not hearing us or they're not with us. And if that's the case, that's okay, right? But that shouldn't deter you from continuing to move in faith to find the people that you need who will collaborate with you. There are people out there who are just meant to help you move whatever you're trying to do. There are people who is going to be part of your movement and there are people who are not. I would much rather have somebody who says, you know what, Dr. B, I'm down with you to make this happen, as opposed to somebody I would just dream and hope to work with, but they're like, no, I'm not really feeling it. I'd much rather have someone who wants to work with me and be like, let's go. Like, I'm down. Let's go. If you down with this vision that I see right now, me and you can go. Who else do you know? Right. And then you start creating a team of people that you need in order to move. But you got to make sure that the goals are big enough that you need someone and that you find the right people. And they will be there. They're there. They are waiting to collaborate with you to go. And oftentimes when you collaborate, these people, both of you will win. The key to massive success and accelerated growth and success is going to be your ability to connect and collaborate with the right people and move that way. There are people that is the missing link to the acceleration of your growth. All right, I'm done. See, because I'm about to go for about the whole show if I keep going like this. You see what I'm saying, Oliver? All right. Well, here's the deal, you guys. I got another phenomenal guest here. That's right, Eric. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to get this thing moving, man. There's people who are waiting on us, man. And sometimes oftentimes it's going to require us to be able to collaborate with other people. I have another great guest today. Again, another recent friend. Again, you talk about collaborating. I mean, I just met Oliver, just a phenomenal guy. He's got a book that just recently came out called Overcoming the Man Laws. We're going to be talking about that today. He's a husband, father, author, speaker, marriage coach, and content creator. If you are not familiar with him, I highly suggest right now you just stop what you're doing and just go follow him. Okay. Oliver Marcell. Just follow him because the content that he and his wife put out there to bless relationships, to unify marriages, to create connection between relationships is phenomenal. Out of a passion to see people succeed in every area of their lives, he and his wife, Denise, created Denoli LLC. His passion has moved him to be very open and transparent about his successes and failures in an attempt to encourage others that they can continue on this journey and be successful despite their past experiences. As I mentioned, he is the author of the newly published book, Overcoming the Man Laws. We're going to be talking about that today. And without further ado, I got my man, Oliver Marcell. What's going on, brother?
Sir, listen, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you have me on, and I'm excited. I'm a little bit nervous, but you could have kept going. I'm very content to go right back into the green room and listen to what you were saying, because I'm telling you, man, you don't understand how, like, that was for me. 100%. That was for me, because that has been a hang up area for me. Trying to find the right people. And you said something that was key, man, that you may go after this person that you've always wanted to work with, and they're like, I'm not really feeling you, right? I went through that. I literally went through that experience, and then it just made me gun shy after that. Like, okay, who should I approach and who should I not? So, hey, listen, I'll go back. You go on and do your thing. We can talk about the book anytime.
well, I mean, let's park here for a second, man. And here's the reason why, because I've been there before, Oliver. You know what I'm saying? Like, you reach out to people and they may not see the vision, and it's so crystal clear. And if anybody here who's watching live right now, or even on the replay, if you've had this vision that's crystal clear and you tell somebody else and it just seems like it falls on deaf ears, or sometimes you don't even get a reply on an email to somebody that you send something to,
right?
It will make you gun shy, man. It will make you gun shy. But this is the part of faith where we have to keep moving. And then what I realize is that the ones who are supposed to be part of the team and part of the tribe that will help you move forward, it's too easy.
Wow.
It goes too easy. Oliver, let's rewind about how we got you on the show.
True.
It wasn't anything you really did other than, you were being faithful to kind of letting people know about the book. I saw it. I reached out to you, was like, whoa, hold up. I got to have this dude on my show. It's easy when it happens the way it's just supposed to happen, man. And I used to get upset whenever, I would either pitch or try to collaborate and it didn't happen, particularly with somebody. And this happened recently, man. I'm looking to host this summit here pretty soon. I'm looking to get some big names on this summit. And there's some guys who I've admired and followed for a while who they were like, thank you, no thank you.
Gotcha.
But now it's no biggie, because here's what I know. The people who's supposed to ride with me, they out there. And matter of fact, some of them already said, let's roll. And it was too easy. You just got to keep going and find the ones who are like, oh man, like, yeah, I've been waiting on you. Let's do it.
Right.
It's
a good word, man. And it's something that my wife tells me all the time. As it relates to what we do for marriage, she says the people who need it are going to be the people who arrive.
Yep, that's right. That's right, man.
I love it, man. I love the timeliness of it, and I received every single word.
Well, dude, I got chills because I'm ready to learn about these man laws, man. Why don't you just kind of share with people real quick, what you and your wife do and how this book came to be. I know a little bit about this story. I think it's a really cool story, but I want you to share with other people kind of how this came to be.
Absolutely. My wife and I, we are marriage coaches. We do a lot of videos. We do some seminars. Excuse me. With COVID, we had to pivot. It's funny because we signed on to do 3 in-person events, and then boom, here we are in the pandemic. So we had to figure out how to pivot that and turn them into some virtual things. But very passionate about relationships, and people would always tell us, hey, we love your ministry. And we're like, we don't know what you're talking about. we're just trying to stay married. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then just God leading us, fast forward, leading us through what I thought was just going to be blogging. I told my wife, let's set up a blog, 2013, let's set up a blog, and that's it. People keep asking us about our story. We'll do that, and that's it. But that's not what God had in mind. And so, fast forward now to, podcasts and video series and seminars and things of that nature, literally just to show people that we're on the same journey that you're on, And despite what happens, flat tires, accidents, whatever, crazy people you meet on the road, you can still make it through this journey. Literally, that's the only goal. And so we do that through being very candid about our relationship. Folk who follow us know that we do these Thursday night conversations sometimes, and it's literally a conversation. We'll sit here and look back at each other and talk about the craziness that's happening in our lives, just to show people that you can get through it. You know, and that's kind of where this birthed out of. Because during this process of me being a husband and father, just in September, we were married 20 years. Been married 20 years.
Man, congratulations.
This September. Man. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And the learning that has taken place and the unlearning that has taken place in these last 20 years is what led me to write this book. And there are just some things that we've grown up under, some man laws, and everybody can think of one. Yep. And it's not even so much that they're terrible man laws. It's just that sometimes they make us create an image of ourselves that we can't sustain.
Right.
Or it's detrimental to our success. And in my case, detrimental to my success as a husband and father. And so a couple of years ago, I was a breakout speaker for a singles retreat. I was talking to the men about these 5 things that I've learned. And God just impressed on my heart at that time, was like, this would be a good book. And so I started it, but as things happen, life happens, things happen, I kind of put it down and I pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. And then once this pandemic hit, you know, it was almost like God was like, this is the green light, my dude. Like, you got to do it now. And so that's really what that birthed out of, man. And just I go through those 5 things. I break them out into 8 pillars and just talk about what I've learned. It's really a look into my own journey.
Yes.
In hopes that you can find some tools in there to help you craft your path.
Why don't you tell people what man laws are? Like what are these things? Because you said something key in there. You were talking about relationships, but I think you're also talking about being a man. This term unlearning. Ooh,
yeah, unlearning
things. Because quite honestly, there are things that we need to unlearn as men.
Indeed.
And so, but what are man laws? What are man laws? And then we're going to start, once we kind of define like what the, you know, these laws are, we'll break down some of these 8 pillars that you talk about. But like,
okay,
if we're just chopping up about man laws, like what are those things? We all know what they are, kind of, but just so that people know what we're talking about when we say man laws.
Man, those I call them policies sometimes. Those standard operating procedures that just get passed down generation to generation from our fathers, brothers, uncles, cousins, you know, guys on the street that we went to school with, you know, things all the way from, you know, men don't cry. And, you know, I listened to the doc last week, who, by the way, was dropping. Like,
man. Johnny Parker, shout out to Dr. Johnny, bro. Because I was telling him today, I was like, people still listening to that and reaching out to me saying that was just ridiculous. Man,
it was gold all the way through. But I even heard him talking about some of those things where, like, when, you know, a girl may hurt herself and how we deal with that. And if a guy hurts himself and we're like, hey, brush it off, you know, get yourself together, you'll be all right. Just all of those things that have been passed down, those standard operating procedures that surround what we envision or what's embodied into manhood are those things that I call the man laws. And, you know, don't cry, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, win at any cost, you know, and some of them are not bad things. They're really not bad things. Some of them aren't. But as it relates to where you're trying to go and what your path is as a man, as it relates to all of the scenarios that you may find yourself in, whether it be on the job, whether it be with a family, whether it be just with your siblings, doesn't have to be a wife. It could just be with your siblings and your parents. Those scenarios that you find yourself in, do those laws help to guide you to a place where you can be successful as a man, or are they a hindrance? For me, there were so many things that were hindrances that I took into my marriage and then realized once I was knee deep in it, nah, this ain't gonna work. Either I'm gonna remain the way I am and I'm gonna be unmarried,
Yeah.
or I'm going to walk through this marriage and unlearn some things and pick up some new things. And so that's what I had to do, man.
Man, so several things that I want to unpack there. You mentioned you really don't care in what area of life. This could be at work. This could be at home. This could be as a father. This could be as a friend. This could be with any hat that we wear at any particular time. These laws are affecting us and influencing us, whether we realize it or not.
Indeed.
Most of us don't realize that these laws influence our behavior. And so you said, I brought some of these laws in my relationship and didn't even realize that, it was affecting the relationship, but that you knew you were going to have to change it. What are some laws that happen to you that many of us men are probably even just completely unaware of that we need to start to unlearn?
I'll give you a big one that for me personally.
Yeah.
One of the 5 things that I've learned is you cannot demand what you have not first developed.
Oh, tell us more about that, man, please.
So for me, right, growing up, you grow up with this sense of, because you're a man, there are certain things that are just granted to you because of your title and your role. So there's a certain level of respect that's just got to come your way. There's a certain level of trust that's just got to come your way. Like there's nothing that I'm supposed to do. I don't have any contributing factors to this.
Right.
It's just because I'm a man.
There's no earned respect. I should just have respect as a father. I
step into the room. This is what I say. This is how it should be. And that's kind of what I grew up under. Right. And some of that is family of origin. Some of that is kind of cultural. I'm from West Indian background. And so, my father and his father before him is kind of that, this is my way or the highway kind of thing. But it wasn't working for me. It was a man law that I could not continue to implement and expect the results that I was looking for. And
what'd you run into as a result of just?
Oh, wow. Listen, my wife is Jamaican. So here's the flip side, right?
Right.
You have on one side, you have, the guys that kind of grow up with that mentality, like, what I say goes.
Yeah.
But then you have a lot of women in that culture who are like, you ain't gonna tell me what to do.
Ooh.
Like it's not going down like that. It's either gonna be a partnership or you can do your thing. Like, I don't need you, And so just some of the friction that just came with the ideology that, hey, I'm calling the shots, so to speak. The friction that developed was it was so detrimental to the relationship. In the first 18 months of our marriage, we're looking at each other. We had a great friendship before marriage.
Yeah.
But when that kicked in and they're like, oh, now I have this role. Yeah. And with this role comes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now she's looking at me like, I don't know you. Like this is not the guy I was friends with, because now you're expecting some things from me and you're demanding some things from me. And that's not how this is supposed to work. And just something clicked with me, man. If I want her to trust me, I have to be trustworthy. I have to develop that. I have to begin to build that. And trust takes time to build. If you think about a building, I liken trust to a building. You can, and that's one of the 8 pillars, trust. If you put up some charges in a 100-story building, you cleverly place some charges, you can bring that building down 30 to 60 seconds. It doesn't matter who you hire. The most expensive, the best contractor in the entire universe is not putting up that 100-story building in 30 to 60 seconds. It's just not happening. And I had to incorporate that mentality as it relates to building trust. I had to learn, okay, I can't demand this from her if I haven't developed it in myself first. If I'm not developing respect, if I'm not developing trust, if I'm not showing love, as opposed to just saying some things and, bringing some flowers home, which is phenomenal. I'm not saying don't bring flowers home.
Right.
But often for me, I got into this place where I felt like I could kind of gift and work my way, almost like what we sometimes do with God, right? We feel like we can work our way, into the kingdom and work our way into good graces, into great relationship, doing the same thing. Like, oh, she'll be all right. I buy her a pair of shoes. We're good. No, man, you got to build some trust. Like you got to develop that stuff first in you before you can demand it from her. And that was a big one for me, man. That was something that I took several years to unlearn and realize, wait a minute, man, I'm shooting myself in the foot.
Man, this is so big because one of the things that I hope the fellas who are watching this realize is, and really this goes both ways, but obviously this show is meant to target the fellas out here, is so oftentimes, and I've even found myself doing this about a lot of things in life, may even be in business, everything is relationships. Business is relationships, you know, my practice as a doctor is relationships, my marriage relationships, because I'll find myself complaining about something that is external from me, not thinking that in order to really try to either maybe not resolve that issue, but have it be better, do something. A friend of mine mentioned, shout out to my friend Reggie Hilliard. He says, seed the need. So if you are looking for, and that's exactly what you're saying. If you're looking for respect, seed that, like put that seed in, like you do it first, right?
Indeed.
You put in first. If you're like, oh my gosh, like why is this happening? Or why is, why am I not receiving love from her or whatever? It's like seed that first, love first. Then it comes back. It's so hard for us to, I think, oftentimes we feel like we're doing the things when like loving and trusting and respecting. But oftentimes we're just not, man. And we're not, if we gave first, and not just once, but consistently.
Consistent. Yeah.
I think it comes back. You know what I mean?
It does come back, man. Cause that's part of the commitment for anything you do in life, whether it is relationships. You can put this on anything. That's where that commitment comes in. And commitment requires consistent effort. It's not, there's an emotional component to commitment. There's a spiritual component to commitment, but there's an effort component to commitment that has to happen consistently to show your commitment. It's tied to your commitment. So I can't tell my wife, or I can't tell the folk that I work with, or I can't tell the people in my church, or whoever it is, whatever the scenario is, I can't say out of my mouth that I'm committed, but yet you don't see consistent effort from me. Because if you don't see consistent effort from me, it is a clear sign that my commitment is invalid.
And it's really leadership, man. I mean, it's leadership.
It is.
Many of us don't see ourselves as leaders, as husbands or as fathers or as wherever we are in our workplace, but it's hard to ask someone to do something that you aren't willing to do yourself.
It is.
And leadership breaks down at that point, right? If not, if you're just really barking orders, man, I'm trying to do this with my kids, man. Like, no, I mean, seriously, I was thinking about this the other day, like, because, my kids, they ain't get this from me. They smart. They get this from their mother. I'm just hard working. Like, but not that my wife isn't hard working, but she's smart. They're smart. They'll figure stuff out. Like, they'll call me out on stuff. I told my son one day, I was like, he was yelling across the house, for his other brother, like, Lincoln, hey. I'm like, dude, why are you yelling? Like, if you need him, just get up and go talk to him. Excuse me. How come later that day I'm yelling for my wife? Hey, babe. Hey. My son told me, he's like, hey, Dad, I thought we weren't supposed to yell. I was like, now see, you are not supposed to come back at me with this. You're not supposed to have that kind of memory. Right. But again, I can't ask him to do something that I'm not willing to. I couldn't be mad at. I couldn't be mad at him because of that.
Yep.
Or something as simple as, if they say why, and I say, oh, because I'm your dad. That's why. That's why you need to do it. Like, that's not really a good enough reason. I think we all feel like it's justified because we're trying to be parents and do something to make sure, or trying to prevent them from getting in trouble or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But I wouldn't mind like a reasonable answer. It might just be, son, I just don't think that's safe. Like, that's why. Not, you don't need to know what that is, just your dad. Like that, it's like, so I'm trying to be that way with my kids, and it's tough.
It is. Know what I mean? Believe me, it is, because my father, what you said, that's how my father was with me. And so
that's what I knew.
Essentially, that's how I was with my son. If I asked my dad something, and number one, he didn't even want me to ask why. Let's be clear.
Yes.
Like, don't question me.
Yes.
But if you happen to question me and come out of your mouth wrong and say, "Why?" It's because I said so. That's really what it boils down to.
It's just because I said it.
Right. But what that does, right? What that does for us, and no, this is not a dig on my pops. He's the greatest guy on earth.
Yep.
But he got it from his father, who got it from his father. But what we don't realize is what that does is what that instills in our kids, especially our guys, our sons, is that, okay, I essentially rule. So when I get into whatever scenario that I'm in and I have some level of, whatever it is, whether it be C-suite or whether it be husband or whether it be whatever it is, team captain, whatever. Mm-hmm. Any place where I feel like I have some level of authority, I'm that guy. Mm-hmm. And you just gonna do it because I'm that guy. Right. And so we kind of instill that. And that's, even if we don't mean to, that's kind of some of the things that we grow up under. And so I grew up with that mentality. Like, okay, well, it's because I said so.
Yep.
So, babe, I need you to do X, Y, Z. So what's going on with that? Just do it. Right. It's like, what?
It's
what are you talking to? Like, so yeah. So, and it's crazy because you talked about leadership, man. One of the other things, I'll give you the 5 things because
So, because I was about to say,
on all of them.
So just real quick, just kind of summarize for anybody who's kind of just jumping on. We're talking to Oliver Marcell. He's a recent author of the book Overcoming the Man Laws, and we're talking about what man laws are, which are these unwritten rules, or like you said, it's these standard operating procedures and policies as men, these unwritten rules that we have kind of followed generation to generation. Hey, pick yourself up by the bootstraps. You're not supposed to cry. You're the breadwinner, and you can, you win at all costs. Even if you gotta, sacrifice, time with the family, and then, just all these unwritten rules that have been kind of passed down that we need to unlearn and then relearn some new things. And so one of the pillars that he talks about that we need to learn is trust, and that we need to seed that trust. If we're of whatever we're looking to receive, we need to actually give that first. Real quick, Sandy, yes, I think this is for everybody. It's not just for men. The principles we're talking about today really cover both men and women. We just happen to be talking and directing the conversation to men. But so trust is one of those pillars. What are some of the other pillars, Oliver?
So there were 8 pillars, right? But before I get into those 8 pillars, where those 8 pillars came from were the 5 things that I laid out when I did that talk for the men in the singles retreat. Mm-hmm. And it was 5 things that I learned. So I already said 1, you can't demand something you haven't first developed. The others are leadership sometimes looks more like maintenance man than CEO.
Tell us about that.
That one is just talking about, and you touched on it, just talking about everyone not realizing that there is a leadership component to them, regardless of the scenario, right? And often when we think leadership, we think C-suite. We think the guy that's on top, at the top of the totem pole. But if you think about maintenance man, right? And in the book, I talk about the corporate world. And in the corporate world, at least I don't know, those of you who are watching, you can tell me, but I've never seen anybody in the C-suite cleaning the bathroom. It's always the maintenance people that are doing that, the facilities guys that are doing that, right?
That's right.
But to be successful as a man, those 2 entities, they have to merge. I cannot always be this guy that's barking orders, that's delegating, that's disseminating information and watching everybody scurry as a result. There are some things that I have to do that kind of put your hands in the dirt kinds of things that help to undergird my relationships, whether it be my marriage, whether it be with my kids, whether it be with my coworkers. There's some of those things that have to take place. And so there's these maintenance man kinds of duties that, again, man laws tell us that we're not supposed to be doing certain things.
Yep. Man
laws tell us that, hey, you have a certain role, that there are certain things that are embodied in that role, and there are certain things that are definitely not.
This is big, man, because, I think there's this false sense of leadership that has been portrayed, I think, over the years of somebody, at the top barking orders down.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, man, there was a doctor that whenever I was in undergrad that I worked with, who he was a phenomenal leader. And as I look back and you're saying, you know, how many CEOs do you see scrub the toilet? When I would work in the emergency room with Dr. Hall, it was clear that he saw his job, even though he was every time he worked night shift, he was the top dog there.
Mm-hmm.
He would transport patients upstairs sometimes, particularly we'd be real busy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they'd be saying, you know, Brad, where are you to go transport the patient? I'm like, I already got another patient to transport. He'd be like, I'll take him. And he would roll the patient upstairs and they would be like, Dr. Hall, what you doing? He's like, you know, we're busy. We gotta get going. There was not a single person in our emergency department when I worked with Dr. Hall who they were bought in, who would not do something that they wouldn't ordinarily do for another doc. Mm-hmm. Everybody was bought in to Dr. Hall. Everybody was willing. I mean, it could be something significant, be something small, but they were like, whatever we could do for you. And I think it was because they saw him, like you said, put their hands in dirt. I say that because I think, look, I'm going to get you on this end. If you selfishly want some people to get stuff done, just go do some of the things that people don't ordinarily see you do. But the funny thing is when you do it, you're probably going to be more fulfilled and glad that you did it than you realize. That's why I'm kind of tricking you into saying, look, go selfishly. If you want some people to get something done, go do what you want them to do and then watch what happens. And you'll like it, the fact that you did it anyway.
100%. I tell guys all the time, man, there's strategy, right? And especially when we're dealing with husbands. I tell husbands all the time, think about what you do in the workplace. Think about what you do in your career, the strategy that you have to craft. If you're a people leader, the things that you have to do, the things you have to say, the types of things that you have to be engaged in. The doc last week talked about 360. So the stuff that you learn when you're going through those 360s and what you have to implement in order to get the best amount of the best productivity level from the folk around you. Mm-hmm. You got to do the same thing in your relationships. That's what we tell husbands all the time. And so one of the other ones is you may have to take some L's in order for your relationship to win.
This is another pillar.
That's one of the 5 things.
I mean, this is one of the 5 things.
That's one of the 5 things. Yep.
So hold up, because this is so good. I'm gonna just tell you right now, we're gonna go over time because we got to. We got to unpack this because the first law is the first of the 5 principles that you were saying is you're gonna have to give what it is that you're looking to receive. Yep. But how did you say it?
You cannot demand something you have not first developed.
Listen to this. I need everybody to hear this. You cannot demand something that you have not yet developed. Dude, that is so massive. You cannot demand something that you have not developed. This is like a wake-up call, slap in the face. I want every man to just kind of be like, ouch, because that is so serious, man. Like it's hitting me, even though it's like after the fact right now. I'm like, man, you cannot demand something that you have not already developed out of anyone in life.
Yep.
Second one is that we just talked about is the leadership.
Leadership sometimes looks more like maintenance man than CEO.
Get your hands in the dirt. Okay, AKA get your hands in the dirt.
Yep.
And now we're on
and what's crazy is you talked about it with the doctor that you mentioned. You will begin to see how people have an affinity to you based on your willingness to step outside of the documented roles that you have seen yourself in. You just gave an example of that.
Basically, you're gonna further your mission. You're gonna get more done. You'll be more successful by this. Okay. And then the third one that we just hit on.
You may have to take some L's in order for your relationships to win.
Man, we could stop there, bro. I'm just telling you. You may have to take some losses in order to overall win.
And that goes 100% against what we've been taught.
Yeah.
We're not taught. No one has taught us how to lose as men. We're taught how to deal with loss after the fact. And typically that dealing with loss is something that's detrimental to our development, because usually that dealing with loss is get yourself together. We'll get it next time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no there's very little self-reflection. Now in sports, you may get that because they may look at tape and they may look at some things. Hey, where did we go wrong? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But in a lot of scenarios, we don't get that self-actualization moment, that self-reflection moment, those things that observation, training, execution, we don't go through those things as it relates to the loss that we took. And what I tell guys all the time is I use the term loss. I use the term L's for shock value. Essentially, what I'm getting guys to do is begin to start crafting strategy. You got to look at the long game. I want my wife to be happy. And so I talk about, I use myself in this book all the way through, just because I want you to know that I'm talking about me for all the pages. But I want my wife to react a certain way. I want her to treat me a certain way. I want her to have this aura about her as consistently as possible. So there's some things that I may have to do, some things that I may have to quote unquote back down off of. Like I may have to step off my position for a second so that the long game plays out the way I want it to. Because if I hold on to this thing in the short term, then I blow up the long game for something that's really probably, if we want to be 100% honest, is probably not that significant.
But see, man, this is so rich because this can be applied to multiple areas of life. This is not just relationships. Because I think a lot of us are like, man, you mean I got to eat that crow from my wife? You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta, take the L, for my wife. And like you said, I like the fact that you said, take the loss as shock value, but it's really saying it's not necessarily taking the loss, but it's, I guess the way I see it more of is how can I make sure that I'm putting her before me?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Not easy. Let me say this. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not easy. And I'm not saying that I'm always successful at that. But how can I be more selfless is what I'm thinking. So me and a friend were having lunch yesterday. We were talking about business, and we were talking about he happens to work for Amazon. And the point of this conversation this story is not whether you like Amazon. You can think what you think about Amazon, but the point is this. As Bezos was building out the company, there were times where he had an opportunity to really make more money early on, but saw that, you know what? No, we won't do this. We're going to look at the customer first and take some L's now for the long buy-in of our customers over time. For example, I mean, they have a policy where if you buy it and it don't work or it's not, just return it. Like that's an L for a company.
Yeah.
If you just say, hey man, just return it. Just return it. You're good. You got to pay. I don't know the full details, but you don't have to pay for shipping or something like that when it comes to Amazon. But like that's an L. But look at the buy-in they get what return long-term for that.
Yep. And that's a policy they still hold. We were literally just talking about that 2 days ago.
Yes.
Because my daughter ordered something and it was wrong. And they were like, don't worry about it.
Just send it back.
Well, they told her to keep it.
Keep it.
And we'll send you the new one. Who is not going to be loyal to somebody like that?
That is a loss.
Let's
be clear. That is a loss to the company.
Indeed.
But they gain you as a long-term person whenever this story gets told, just like this, to say, what? Hold up. Yep. Now look at who Amazon is as a monster. You sacrifice a little bit now for the sake of the big gain later.
And yep.
Yeah.
And
so
I mean, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Here's the thing about it. What I'm trying to get guys to understand is that in the beginning, yes, they're gonna feel like elves. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I go through some stuff still right now after 20 years. I'm like, man,
amen.
I took the L on that one. Like big time. But what I'm trying to get guys to understand is that it's not so much a loss as it is you are learning your scenario, whatever it is, whether it be marriage, whether it be business, whether it be family, whatever it is, what you're doing is learning your scenario. And the more you learn your scenario, the more you can craft strategy so that that scenario works in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
The more you craft strategy, your approach to that thing changes. And when your approach to that thing changes, your attitude follows your approach.
I hope y'all taking notes.
So you have shifted, you changed the game.
Right.
By taking those steps over time. And so that was a big one for me too, man. That's something I had to learn, man. We do this thing called position versus interest, where you standing on your position. Is rah 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 rah, stay in your position. Sometimes you got to step down and see and figure out what is the why, which is the interest.
What's the overall goal? Zoom out. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, what is it? And that created some dialogue for me in a lot of areas, because now I'm like I'm listening now, and now I'm understanding a little bit more about you and why your position is what it is, and it helps to create some dialogue. Now we can develop some intellectual intimacy between us. That give and take, like, okay, well, I hear what you're saying, but have you thought about this? Or here's the reason why I said what I said or did what I did. Now you're getting that dialogue instead of that just rah, 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 standing on your position. You get nowhere.
Man, I think that to apply this, the way I really look at it, man, and again, not easy, but to actually apply this third one that we're talking about, in terms of taking L sometimes to really win the game, if you will, whatever it is we really win when we take the light off of ourselves. When we're thinking about the best interest of the other person and how we can provide value for them, then we're not thinking about us winning. We're thinking about their best interest. So you take that same story that we were talking about, Amazon, the guy who I know works for Amazon, he's been at meetings or has been at least kind of zoomed in on meetings where Bezos is there, and Bezos will literally in the middle of a meeting pull up an empty chair to the table and says, "We cannot forget about the customer. This is why we are here."
Wow.
Now you wonder why this company isn't, is how massive they are, because they are singularly focused on someone else and not their own benefit. Because here's what they know. If they make the customer win, if we help the wives win, if we help the friends win, if we help the people we're collaborating win, guess what happened? You're going to win anyway.
It's cyclical.
You're going to win anyway.
It's coming back.
It might have to, you might not have to get what you want early on, but long term, not only do you win, but it's sustainable, bro. I mean, look at Amazon is sustainable. Look at relationships in which somebody is looking at is this, the light's not on me, but it's on you. It's sustainable. So if you want sustainability in whatever you're trying to do, Lord have mercy, I'm preaching to myself. I need this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Oliver, I need this.
Hey, trust me, I know, man.
Then if you want sustainability, take the light off yourself, man. Be willing to take the light off yourself and watch what happens. Watch how you win.
Yep. That's a good one, man. And then the last two. Yeah. The last two are it is better to be trusted than to be loved. And then the last one is simply, it's not about you. And all of those five, right? I took those five and then I broke those down into 8 pillars. So the 8 pillars were relationship, leadership, trust, faith.
Hold up. We're going to break this down. Hold on. So the last two, which is really, and we've kind of touched on this.
We touched on them. Yeah.
I mean, it's not about you. That's exactly what I was talking about right now. If it's not about you, it's about the other person.
It's simply not about you. And it's better to be trusted than to be loved. I got that from a George McDonald quote that I heard that was pretty much close to that.
Yeah.
And for me,
because tell me about that, because some people might listen and be like, "What? How does that work? Better be trusted than to be loved."
So here's the thing for me, right? And in the relationship chapter, I talk about this a lot. For me, love it's both noun and verb in my mind, right? Often we get caught up in the emotional component of love. But that emotional component comes with a conditional tag. If we're only focused on emotion. So if she's not having sex with me no more, I ain't feeling her no more. Or if she's not doing what I say, I'm not really feeling her. That fleeting thing, right? For me, especially in my relationship, as I started to build trust, and just what I talked about before, how doing certain things change your approach and your attitude goes along with your approach. That's when I started to see the verb of love being played out in my actions, in the way I process things, in the fact that I was putting her before myself. And it wasn't even just with her, it was with family members, with kids, my approach to my job, all of those types of things, man. I started looking at it from the angle of, okay, yes, there's an emotional component, but there's a component of integrity as it relates to my job that I need to begin to establish. And as I approach it that way, I start to see the way people interact with me change. There's a component of trust. There's all of these values that are the legs, if you will, of that emotion. And once I started to put those legs down, I started to see a more stable me, because now I have these legs under me. So now if I say to you, I love you, it's not just fleeting. Because in the past for me, right, I could say I love you, but if something happened, then I don't want to talk to you for the next 5, 6, 7 days.
Right.
So that's that flip-flop up and down thing that's not sustainable. You can't, that's not a foundation you can build anything on.
So now
I can build on trust and integrity and all of these other legs. I can build on that.
Right. So in essence, what you're saying, if you say I love you, there should be some tangible things that show trust, that show integrity in the relationship, that should be, that it's not just words.
Right.
Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, you're understanding right. It can't just be words. And so for me, why that stood out for me, it's better to be trusted than to be loved. I'm not saying that you should not be loved. So
right.
Let's be clear about that.
Good.
You should be loved. And love is a crucial component in every kind of relationship.
Yes.
But for me, love was like the roof of the house. And if you think of a house, nobody builds a house from the roof down. Everybody builds from the foundation up. And so for me, I had the roof, but I had nothing holding it up. And for me, what started to hold that up was when I started to implement this integrity, this level of trust, and I started to build those things. And as I started to build those things, I started to see that it was much easier to hold up the roof, which is love, than for me trying to flip flop and I can't hold up the roof with no foundation. And so that was the thing for me, man. It's just better to have that foundation to build on, because if you don't, the wind can blow and the roof is gone.
Right.
If it's not attached to anything.
If it's not attached to anything, man. And then the last one, I know you mentioned it's not about me. I that resonates with me so much, because my life started changing in a drastic way, in my relationship, in my faith, in my business, in my practice. Listen to what I'm telling you, everybody who is listening to this. When I started taking the light off me, my brother and I were talking about this the other day, because he has been really motivated to lose some weight, and he's been running and doing all this stuff. He's like, B, it's getting to the point where it is so hard to get motivated to get on that doggone treadmill. And I said, I get it. But I said, let me tell you a trick that I do for anything in my life that I'm trying to do. If like it gets to that point, I'm gonna be real. Everybody here understands what I'm saying. It gets to a point on some goal that you're going after where you running out of gas, where it's just like, I really don't feel like getting up this morning. I really don't feel like shooting that video this morning. I really don't feel like investing in time to do whatever it is that I know I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Take the light off of you, man, and start realizing if I don't do what I'm supposed to do here, who is going to suffer? And when I started doing that, and I said, look, man, this you is running is not just about you. It's about you being around here. It's about you being around for your wife. It's about you being around for your family. It's about you being around, you know, in a healthy way for you to be able to impact the lives of the people that he's trying to do. He's looking to write a book. So I'm like, bro, the book doesn't get written. The impact doesn't happen if you don't get on the treadmill. That's when he was like, oh, wow, I never looked at it that way.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
It's not about you.
Let's talk about the 8 things real quick of the pillars that you extracted from like these 5 principles.
Yep. So there's a chapter on leadership. There's a chapter on relationships. There's a chapter on faith. There's a chapter on authenticity.
Ooh.
There's a chapter on altruism. There's a chapter on respect. How many is that?
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Is that 6?
Mm-hmm.
What did I miss? A chapter on trust.
Trust.
So leadership, and the last one is mental stamina. So leadership, mental stamina, relationships, trust, faith, respect, altruism, and authenticity. So those are the 8 things that I pulled out of those 5 things that I've learned. And those were the things, man, in the book. I really just go through and talk about my journey. And let's be clear, I'm still on that journey.
Yes.
And what I say in the beginning of the book, man, this is by no means a manual of how to make it, because I haven't made it. But these are the things that I have realized that I have to be intentional about. And I had to look at some folk. I had to observe some folk. And I had to go through this training period where I just started to do some of these things. And then I jumped out front and was like, all right, here we go. We're building trust now. I'm accepting my role as a leader. I'm going to, focus on this relationship. I'm going to work out this thing that I've been trying to work out as it relates to faith and all of these things that I was trying to do, altruism. And, the question that I asked with authenticity is, can we make all of these adjustments and can I still be me after all these adjustments? And so those are the things, man, that I wrestled with. And you see me wrestle with them in the book, man. And I feel like it's a way for guys to really take a look at their journey.
Man, say something real quick about the authenticity piece. I remember when I was wrestling with my faith, I was wrestling at the same time with authenticity. Wow. And I always joke around with people because I remember thinking, man, like I'm really getting closer to Christ now. Like I'm really doubling down on my faith. I'm spending time with him every day. But I'm afraid that I'm going to change into this guy. I'm afraid that I'm going to sound like Pat Robinson on 700 Club. Like I always joke with people and it took me seeing other just good, phenomenal men who were just cool people, man. I could just rap with, and they weren't browbeating people or myself over the head with the Bible. But in essence, they were, the more approachable and, had this ability to connect, the more effective they were at sharing their faith, not because they were just trying to, force this thing. And so I saw like, hold up, you mean I could really be me? I'm like, hold up, you mean I can still rock the flat brim hat? You mean I can still come with the fedora and be, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, you mean I can still talk like the way I normally talk and just be a man of faith? I remember struggling with that, man, because I thought it had to be like I had to wear the white collar. Like I had to, like, I'm gonna come to work, not just with the white coat, but I'm gonna come with the white collar. Like, so I remember struggling with that, man.
And it sounds funny, man, but so many of us as men, and I mean as people in general, but we're talking about men now. So many of us as men struggle with that.
Yeah, man.
Because of the man laws that we grew up under. So we have all of these things that have been ingrained in us. And then once we have that self-actualization moment and we're like, okay, I need to turn some things around.
Yep.
That's one of the first things that comes to mind. Okay. Am I going, am I going to get respected as a man? You know,
am I going to change?
Is this a good, right? Is this a good look? Like that. And that's what I went through, man. I went through that. So I understand it.
So guys, we want results, Oliver. So I'm gonna challenge you right now. We want results. Guys, we want to know, like, I want some results when I do something. What can we count on? What can we, if we follow these 8 pillars, if we become very intentional with these 8 pillars, if we read this book, 8 pillars, and we apply this stuff, what can you say that's happened for you that you can say, look, that can happen for other guys if they do this? Because we're like, I'm down if like there's something that's going to be on the other end. I don't think guys understand how massive this is, of how they can change and what's going to happen. So tell us what some things that happen for you and what they can expect if they follow this.
Man, some things that happen for me, I can tell you a couple of things, and if I had to sum them all up into one thing, I evaluated where I was, and I think that's the first thing that as guys we have to do. We have to really take a hard look at where we are and ask ourselves some questions. Are we comfortable with where we are? Are we comfortable with the results that we're getting? And are we comfortable with the man that we are at this point in time? Yeah. If the answer to any of those things is no, then that means something in your life has to change. You may not know what that something is, but that's when you go through now and start this process of self-discovery and self-actualization. And what I learned was, in order for me to get different results, we say it all the time, but we don't do it. In order for me to get different results, I had to do something different. So to answer your question, what will guys see when they read this? They will see the opportunity to do something different. Now it's going to be up to you to take that hard look at yourself, ask yourself those questions. And if the answer to any of those questions is no, I'm not telling you that this is the foolproof way, but I'm telling you that this is a recipe that you can tweak. So you think about recipes. I give you a recipe to jerk chicken. You may say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna put a little bit of this in there. I'm gonna put a little bit of pineapple juice because that's the way I like it. Right. If the answer to any of those questions is no, here is your recipe to doing something different. And it has worked for me. It's changed me into a different person. It's changed me into a different guy. I'm a different husband. I'm a different father. My outlook on things is different. My approach to things is different. And that's been a game. My approach alone, changing, it has been a game changer for me. Would you say your relationships are better? Relationships are much better. Would you say you're happy? Would you say you're happier, more fulfilled? I would say that, you know what? Here's what's crazy about that. What I would say is that, and it's not even so much about what's happening outwardly, like with my job and with, Denoli and all of that stuff. I feel better about myself. And here's what I feel better about myself. I went through this period of time where it was just woe is me, and it's almost like that victim mentality. Like, and that's one of the man laws that we see some of these younger guys come up under. Hey, because I'm the victim, so because I'm the victim, that's a green light for me to do whatever I want to do and feel how I want to feel and say how I want to say. I went through that, and I feel better about myself. Here's what I need to ask everybody. I'm gonna be very serious here. I need everybody who's watching this. I don't care if it's man or woman, if it's a replay, if you're watching it live. What is it worth to be more fulfilled? What is it worth to feel happier about who you are? What is that worth? There's no price on that, man. There's no price on it. And for me, man, there's no price on it. No price. And what I want people to understand is that what I appreciate about everybody who comes on the show is that everyone is giving their recipe, right? Because it ain't just one way to cook jerk chicken. Nope. Okay. But like you said,
I might put a little pineapple juice. I might put a little salt, and everybody is coming on talking about a different recipe and a framework of thinking. Use what works for them. Use what works for you. Test it out. Go start cooking in the kitchen with this stuff. But everybody is coming on this show saying, hey, man, here's a recipe of what I use not only for my life, but also teach and help other guys win in this area. Take from here, take from that. That's exactly what I did. Read this book, read that book, look at this guy, look at this person. And it doesn't change it. Put it this way. It changes some outcomes in your life, but it don't have to change your personality.
Does
not
not
change your personality.
Does
it changes some of the outcomes in your life. It changes your outlook on life. It changes your perspective on life. What is it worth?
What is it worth? And I would say this too, man. You talked about the recipe, right? I would encourage folk that are listening too, because I've been binge watching, since we had our first conversation on the phone. I've been binge watching, and everybody's giving their recipe, right? But if you look at all of the interviews that you've done, you can pick out some constants, right? So in the book, I talk about I liken a man to a cake. So if you think about pound cake, no matter how you like your pound cake, there's about 3 or 4 ingredients that's in every pound cake.
Yep.
So as you're looking through these recipes, man, start picking out the constants. Okay, I need to have that consistently in this recipe. Oh, I heard that about 10 times in every interview that I watch. And pick out those constants. And now you got your core ingredients, your integrity, your whatever those core ingredients are for you. And then you can build around those things.
Man, Oliver, we could do this for another 3 hours, but for the sake of people's time on here, also
indeed.
for the sake of seeing your beautiful wife, because I know this is usually a night where you guys can kind of get to spend some time. Where can people find the book? I'm going to put up here your website. Just tell us a little bit about where they can find it.
Yeah, so if you're an Amazon person, if you need it to be on Kindle and that type of thing, then definitely go to Amazon and get it. If you're an iOS books person, it's available for you in ebook format. If you want a hard copy, you can also go to Amazon, or you can go to denoli.org/shop, which is up on the screen right now. Those copies, I sign those copies. So if you want a signed copy, that's definitely the place that you want to go. You'll also see some other things there, some merch that goes along with the book and that type of thing. And you'll see some other things when you go to denoli.org/shop. And then while you're there, why not just connect with us? From there, you can get to everything: social media, podcast, video series, all of that you can get from the website, denoli.org.
Well, man, at some point we'll probably have to have you and your wife on, man, or either have you return so we can talk about some relationship stuff, specifically outside of man laws. Listen, you guys, the eight pillars we're talking about is leadership, relationship, faith, authenticity, altruism. Man, so much to unpack here. Respect, trust, and mental stamina. Oliver, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the fact that you've got the courage to really go out and sing the song that you're singing. It's a beautiful one, man. I think you're gonna, I believe you've already impacted a lot of folks. You've impacted me and the men who are on here. And as we eventually turn this into a podcast, this will forever be out there that I can refer people to and be like, look, man, you need to unlearn some of these man laws out here and refer to this show. So any last thoughts?
Man, I would say, if I had to sum it up, it's a journey. And that's the one thing that I want folk to realize, first of all, that it's a journey. And then the second thing is realize that no matter what happens on this journey, that you can be successful despite what you were taught.
Oliver, thank you, man. Look, we're going to be back next week with another great guest on Elite Performance. Again, if you're watching this has blessed me too much for you not to hit like, share, and subscribe, particularly if you're on the YouTube channel. For those of you who are watching this on Facebook, you want to go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, simply because there's going to be content that I'll be putting out weekly outside of what we do for the show, that are videos to try and help you to be able to succeed at work, but also win in life and be able to perform at a high level in all areas of life. It's been an absolute blessing. Oliver, thank you. We will be back next week again, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, here to be able to help all men go from excellent to elite. We'll see you guys next time.